Welcome back, guys, to the Strong Exploit channel. I want to go over quickly Owasp Zap. Owasp Zap is a great web application scanning tool. I'm always asked, what are your favorite tools that you like to use? And, I'm asked that question, I don't know how many times in my career when I started. Even now, they ask me, what are your favorite tools? And I always say to have a technique, have a way of doing things because tools can change. Tools can spit out false positives. Tools can report things that you can always rely on. So have a technique, have a plan B, plan C way of testing, just in case your first option of choice doesn't do you much justice. And Owasp Zap is a great tool. I've always liked it because of its functionality. If for a current moment you can't or you don't have access to Burp Suite Professional. Now, Burp Suite does have a community version. It comes many times automatically packaged in many of the pen testing distributions out there, like ParaOS, Kali Linux. Sometimes they put a Burp Suite in the toolkit itself, but the community version is great. It does allow you to do some testing, but it has very limited features. And the professional version of Burp Suite allows you to do so much more. Owasp Zap is constantly being updated. It's maintained by a good community of developers and security-minded individuals. So Owasp Zap is a great tool to have in your arsenal if for some reason you may not have the ability to obtain and acquire another solution on the commercial side. So Owasp Zap is a good thing to start up with. Now, I will say, and I always give this disclosure, always look out for false positives. Always, always, always. Even some of the commercial solutions can spit out false positives. So always, always, always look into your results, look into your scans, look and see where something could not be a good fit. Because especially if you're running things like an automated scan, it will probe every site. It will probe everything that's in the traffic itself. And sometimes certain sites in the traffic may be out of scope. And if it's out of scope, it's not applicable to your testing. So let's take a quick ride with me on Owasp Zap. So you have automated scan, manual explore, and just learn more, which is basically a tutorial on how you can learn more about how to use this particular tool. Now, the automated scan, as I previously said, you run, you let it fly. It will basically scan everything that's part of the traffic. Manual Explorer is basically when your application is filtering through Owasp Zap and every page that you decide to click on, observe, Owasp Zap will look at it. I prefer the manually explore option many times because it allows me to be more targeted with what I'm looking at versus letting it go and I have an enormous length of output of data to go through and filter out and basically differentiate between what makes sense and what's not applicable for a report. So keep going on. With Owasp Zap, there are a couple of things you can do to really modify and increase your way of testing. One in particular, I love this part. It says manage add-ons. With managed add-ons, you can see right now I have a couple of add-ons that are installed. I've installed. There are a couple within the marketplace. The marketplace is the current. It has these releases of different add-ons, and you have the ability to add them to your Owasp Zap tool. Now, of course, you can see the different statuses of the add-ons. You have release, you have beta, you have alpha. So alpha, beta, and release. Release is basically the official release of the add-on. Beta is still in its testing stage, but it can provide you a little extra insight. One in particular I like is the advanced SQL injection scanner. You have Python scripting, which allows you to incorporate Python scripts into the Zap tool. So let's say you have a custom Python script. You can import it and use it within Owasp Zap. With the install, you can see these are basically add-ons that I have installed already. and I should take a little bit of a time and perhaps update them. So I will update some of the add-ons, and generally speaking, it doesn't take you a lot of time to update. And once you click on the add-ons that you want to update, then it'll basically take care of it of itself. And you can see there's a progress percentage beside each add-on, and it will continually go until they're all updated, which is a very good thing that I like. So they're now updated alrighty now. So to X out of this, a couple of little cool features of Owasp Zap. You can see right here it says show or enable fields. This icon will allow certain fields that are hidden within view to be shown. It may not sound as much, but it was one particular pen test I did it was a few years ago, and I was able to execute higher level privileges because I was able to toggle on this little button, and it allowed me to see and play around with certain form fields that wouldn't show otherwise. So I was logged in as a lower privileged user, and I was able to toggle this on, resend the same traffic, and I was able to interact with form fields that normally wouldn't be available. And I was testing financial data, so you can imagine just the danger of being able to modify loans, modify certain amounts of money or transactions on an account. You can imagine just the links and depths that particular vulnerability could have gone. So Owasp Zap has this particular icon here. You can set break on all your requests and responses. So you can cut a response off. You can cut a request off, modify the request, and then choose to send it once you modify whatever you desire within the request. With Owasp Zap, here's request and response. So as an example, I am going to plug in, let's see. Here, what I will do. So as you can see on the screen, I have a vulnerable web testing instance that I've ran through Owasp Zap. So here on the screen, you see the history. It's on this site that I'm going to test because I'm able to legally test it. And with the alerts, you see 4 alerts. And so the scan will continually build out and provide a full list. But you can see through that here is definitely just a few alerts it has generated. If I was to go back and play around, this pops up actually when you have it going through Owasp Zap as a proxy. Continue to my target, and I can sign in or do different things to generate traffic back to my tool. So continuing on, the screen is constantly rolling with the output that's coming from the scan. And here with the automated scan, I just basically plugged in the URL for testing that chose to actively attack. Normally I would choose a manual way when I'm doing some testing, but for the sake of this video, I'm just showing just the functionality of Owasp Zap. And you can see it's just constantly rolling, and the alerts is giving me more alerts as the scan is completing. It's spotting right now on this at the scan is going right now. And with the alerts, it finds cross-site scripting reflected. It finds X-frame options headers is not set with cookie without secure flag, which has been surprisingly very common. I found this particular finding, even though it's classified as a medium, it's very common, more so than it should be, alongside cross-site scripting and a couple of these other alerts. But this one and and without secure flag, it's very unfortunately common. So looking on with the active scan is now at 60%. And his high was continuously spider, as you can see. So yes, Owasp Zap is just definitely a great tool. Some of the other things that it's capable of doing, as when you can import files containing URLs. So if you have a file with a list of URLs, you can import a file and it can just put all the targets from it and scan them that way. So you don't have to manually type in every URL which is part of your scope, which is a good thing. Some of the tools, as you can see, browse and API, active scan, which is now running, the spotter, which is now running. You can request, you can modify your requests. You have Ajax Spider, which is another function that it has. And you see this plus sign. The plus sign has just different things you can add on, from breakpoints, callbacks. Force browse is another good one. I like force browse. Force browse is when you're able to basically force the traffic to find a file or folder which you shouldn't be able to find. So it's more like brute forcing the directories in the URL. So it's good stuff. Of course, you have your fuzzing. You have your sessions and parameters, and so just to show you some of the ways you can just add on. So Owasp Zap is a good tool. Its reporting functions are also great. You can generate different types of reports, from generate HTML report, an XML report, a JSON. You have options on how you can generate a report, and it's pretty quick. It's pretty sufficient. You can save locally, all of these great things. So that's just a quick look into Owasp Zap. I encourage you, get it. Owasp Zap can be installed on Windows. It can be installed on Linux. It's pretty versatile. In regards to the OS that you prefer to use, I bet you can probably install it on Mac, but it's definitely one of those type of tools where it's not just solely based on one OS. You can install them on whatever you decide to use, and I always prefer to install it on an OS that you like to use on a daily basis. I myself, I have it on a Windows machine, and I have it also on a Linux machine. I just like it everywhere where I'm testing, because sometimes on a Windows machine I'm testing something different, and I have a whole different set of tools and scripts on my Windows machine in comparison to this one I'm using right now, which is Parrot OS. And Parrot OS comes with this whole different set of tools. If I was to give a brief overview on Parrot OS, just a very brief look, Parrot OS has very familiar grouping to Kali Linux. If you look into most used tools, Armitage, Burp Suite, Maltego, Owasp Zap, ZenMap. ZenMap is another one. ZenMap, I found that it doesn't come pre-packaged with some of the later releases and some distributions. So with ZenMap, you may have to manually install it yourself. So if you pull down a late release of Kali Linux or another pen testing suite of choice, you may not find ZenMap pre-installed. You may have to manually pull it down and add it on, if you prefer the GUI version in comparison to the command version. So here in the information gathering, it's a host of so many different tools. I don't know a single person that uses them all, but just a brief overview. You have Wireshark, which is very, very common when you're doing packet capturing and looking at traffic. S&B analysis was a good group when you have a Noon for Linux. You can see information for Windows and Samba systems. And of course you have these at the bottom, which also the same ones that will also appear as well. Vulnerability analysis, OpenVOS scanners. OpenVOS is also not pre-packaged in a lot of later releases. OpenVAS came out years ago. Then the off branch of OpenVAS became Nessus, but Nessus chose to go on a commercial route. So, yeah, but this part comes with OpenVAS. You have to set it up, and once you set up OpenVAS, you set it up. Basically, click on the initial setup first, and literally watch the screen, go through the whole feed, and make sure the feed is updated when it pulls down. Let it go through all necessary steps, and be mindful of the password that's generated in the setup, and put it in a safe place, because it is long by default. It is long. I would say the password is probably more than 26 characters. So once you see it, copy and paste, put it in a safe place. But just a heads up, if you want to install OpenVAS and set it up, be mindful of the length of the password, because it is incredibly long. Exportation tools, Metasploit framework, payload generators, web applications, both your most commonly used tools. They decide to bring them and put them in Parrot OS. Even if they have a digital forensic side as well. They even have automotive, which is very cool. Reverse engineering. So Parrot OS, I stand by it. I have this as a host OS. I have Kali Linux as a virtual machine image on one of my other machines. So I go back and forth, between the flavors, and just see which OS at the time fits my need best. So that is a little quick insight into Parrot. And let's check out my active scan. Seems to be finishing up. Okay, so it found one new alert, which was cross-site reflected. I know there are other alerts and other vulnerabilities, but just as an example, with the functionality of Owasp Zap. So if you want to go into the web application testing space, I strongly recommend knowing how to use this tool, and also Burp Suite. I can almost guarantee you will be asked about it. So if you want to work either private sector or government, most definitely, or for yourself, Burp Suite, Owasp Zap, those are your top, most commonly known. Of course, there are other ones like here. So you have everything from Nikto, which is another one. That's common. Nikto is another one. If I go to, where is it? See, Burp Suite's there, as you can see. So SQL Map. So SQL Map is an automatic SQL injection tool. So that's another tool that is coming more of a like to know, need to know of type of tool. So even though it's automatic, I always say the ability to explain it and use it is the benefit, regardless of what tool solution you like to use. The ability to explain it and know what you're doing and how you're doing and why, those are the big keys. It's just basically knowing your whys. So this is Sean Exploits. I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned with this channel. I'm always creating new videos and playing around with certain tools and solutions. So with this channel, you can almost be guaranteed that when you see a new video, I am playing around with something. I'm playing around with something. It could be a beta release. It could be something not officially released. One of my previous videos is on the Joker framework, which is a great tool. It's not necessarily getting a lot of buzz right now, but go to one of my earlier videos. I did a 15-minute clip on Joker and basically showing how to configure it and let it go, because Joker is a semi-automated network and web application testing framework. So it's a cool thing. So definitely go to my earlier videos and check it out if you haven't seen it already. I might do a follow-up on that one too, because that's a cool tool. I like how it shows up when you launch Joker in a Docker, and the screen shows up with with. So it's cool. So anyway, happy testing, and I will see you again.